What a fascinating career Mel Gibson has had in directing. I mean, he's made some massive, very well-known films such as Apocalypto, Braveheart, The Passion of the Christ. Then let's just say his reputation took a bit of a hit when he was heard on record saying some pretty bad stuff. Then in 2016, he made a triumphant return with Hacksaw Ridge, which I still think is an incredibly underrated war film. Flight Risk, which is the movie we're talking about today, is the first film that he's directed since Hacksaw Ridge. So I guess Gibson has now entered his phase of directing straight-to-DVD bin thrillers. And the movie also stars one of my favorite actors, wink wink, Mark Wahlberg. Holy shit, that's a bald cap. This trailer has played in front of like every movie that I have seen over the last couple of months, and each time I see it, it kills me the second his wig gets ripped off and it's revealed that he's bald, at least his character is. It has to be one of the most unconvincing bald caps I've ever seen. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Flight Risk is about a U.S. Marshal named Madeline, played by Michelle Dockery. She boards a small plane to transfer a government witness to New York. After they take off, the suspicious pilot, played by Mark Wahlberg, begins to give off clues that there is a deeper motive here and he may not be the person that he is claiming to be. I don't know, I feel like describing this as a straight-to-the-DVD bin in Walmart type of movie is the best descriptor I can give. That just sums it up perfectly. My issues with the film have nothing to do with the concept. The concept is actually quite good. I like chamber pieces in which characters are thrown into a very small claustrophobic environment and the writers have to find clever ways to come up with tension within that environment. Here, it's the execution that falls short, and there are two big reasons why I never felt tension pretty much throughout this entire film. The first reason is that the characters make horrible decisions, constantly. I mean, Michelle Dockery is playing Madeline, a U.S. Marshal, who has a past that could have been interesting if we learned more about it, but they really just brush over it in a last-minute attempt to give us some character development for her. But given all of her experience, you'd think she'd be a little more on top of her game, especially when Mark Wahlberg's character, the pilot, shows his true colors. There are so many opportunities for her to kill this guy when she absolutely should have and doesn't. And I know what you're probably thinking, right? Well, she's got to know how to fly the plane somehow. First of all, you think this pilot is going to tell her how to fly the plane when he clearly wants to get his way? Second of all, she winds up getting on the phone and talking to someone who helps her fly the plane so that she can land it herself anyway. So there's no reason for them to keep this guy alive other than to continue the plot. Topher Grace plays the witness that she is transporting. And this kind of leads me into my other problem with the movie. These three characters, the actors, all think that they're in a different film. Michelle Dockery is playing it very seriously. She thinks she's in a tense, thrilling crime drama. Meanwhile, Topher Grace is over here cracking jokes every 2 seconds. Dude totally thinks he's in a comedy. And then there's Mark Wahlberg, whose acting is generally just so over the top that he seems to think he's in a more serious film, and instead he's coming off as unintentionally hilarious. I was getting some flashbacks to The Happening while watching this. Sorry, I'm sure Mark Wahlberg has his fans out there, but seriously, what has he been genuinely good in, aside from maybe Boogie Nights and The Departed? Having these three actors who all feel like they're trying to channel a completely different kind of energy, it leaves the film feeling tonally inconsistent, just all over the map. I have to imagine the budget was fairly small because most of the shots are from the interior of the plane, and very rarely did it feel like when I was looking out of a window that I was looking at an actual environment. It was obvious green screen trickery that never once immersed me. Ironically, I think the most interesting part of this film is actually a phone call that Madeline is having with other characters. There's a suggestion that some of her force may be corrupted. There might be a mole within trying to make sure that this witness doesn't survive this plane trip. Her trying to decipher who she can and can't trust, that was more interesting than any of the dynamics going on with these three characters that are actually on the plane that we're watching. The last 10 minutes were fine, I guess. I mean, you finally get some payoff when she's forced to try to land on an actual runway. It's at that point that the film shifts gears into overdrive, and I mean, logic was already out the door, but it goes insane. And there were some moments where I gasped out loud in laughter. But is it worth sitting through another 80 minutes of boring, tedious nonsense with no tension, no suspense, and no attempt to do anything remotely interesting with its characters? Sometimes when I'm evaluating a really schlocky movie like this, I have to sit back and just think to myself, okay, list off some of the things you liked. And if I can't come up with more than like one or two things, that's just not a good sign. So in the end, this must have been a paycheck job for Mel Gibson, that or he's having trouble finding work because of his current reputation, because it had zero suspense, zero intriguing characters, Most of the jokes from Topher Grace were laughably cringe. Actually, laughably cringe is giving it more credit than it's worth because I didn't laugh. Maybe this would be a fun watch if you're super drunk or something, but I'm gonna go ahead and give Flight Risk 1.5 stars. I did not care for this at all. I suppose you could say it failed to stick the landing. There's my pun of the day, I'm sorry. So those are my thoughts on yet another January release that does not live up to expectations. I hope you guys don't see this, but if you do, be sure to drop down into the comments and let me know what you think of it. Hit that like button as well as subscribe while you're at it. If you want to see more content like this, I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later.